Hey, well, thank you and welcome. I'm Natalie Solden with the Communications Office for the Office of Science. Welcome to the Office of Science's informational webinar, as you can see on your screen, for FY 2023 Research Opportunities in Accelerator Stewardship and Accelerator Development. Before we begin, I have a few logistics to go over. First, as you probably noticed when you joined, this meeting is being recorded. The recording and slides of this meeting will be posted next week to the website, and I'll drop that website in chat as soon as we get started. There are closed captions available. You'll notice in the bottom of your screen, you can click on closed caption button to enable them. After our presentations today, there will be a question and answer session. So during the presentations or after the presentations, feel free to drop your questions in the Zoom Q&A box. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Eric Colby. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Natalie. So I'm Eric Colby, Director of the Office of Accelerator Research, Development, and Production. I'm joined today by Deputy Director, Dr. Camille Ginsberg, who will join me in the presentation. So welcome to all. We're going to go over a little bit about the Office of Science, and then we'll cover ARDAP and the Accelerator Stewardship and Accelerator Development programs, and get into a little bit of detail about this year's FOA, and then invite your questions, as Natalie said. So before we get started, just to touch on a few key dates. This FOA was posted on January the 10th. Pre-applications for the FOA are due by February the 7th by 5 p.m. Pre-applications are required. We'll give a response, either a discourage or encourage, by February the 21st, and then full applications are due by March the 21st by 11:59 Eastern Time. So diving in. There we go. So just a high-level look at the Office of Science by the numbers. We are in FY22. Last year, we were a little over $7.5 billion and the largest supporter of physical sciences research in the United States. There are 6 core science programs in advanced computing, basic energy sciences, biological and environmental research, fusion energy sciences, high energy physics, and nuclear physics, of which probably many of you are aware. To that, there are in addition 3 engineering and technology offices, including the Small Business Innovation Research Office, the Isotope Research and Development and Production Office, and the Accelerator Research, Development and Production Office, which we'll focus on today. But together, these programs support many tens of thousands of researchers, both directly and at our user facilities, operating 10 national laboratories and a suite of 28 user facilities at those national laboratories. So DOE's Office of Science's mission is to deliver scientific discoveries and major scientific tools to transform our understanding of nature and advance the energy, economic, and national security of the United States. And as I mentioned, we're the largest supporter of basic research in the physical sciences in the US. And our research activities support nearly 29,000 PhD scientific and engineering professionals. To support that mission, of course, we require cutting-edge research tools. We operate 28 scientific user facilities, which support another 34,000 users each year, and touch on high-performance computing, X-ray neutron sources, physics facilities, nanoscience centers, biocharacterization facilities, and design and construction of next-generation facilities, of course, is key to the future. And these activities in the red rectangles in particular are those that we in the Accelerator Research, Development, and Production Office support. So here is a pictorial display of the 28 user facilities that the Office of Science supports. Those that are outlined in red have a major accelerator technology or a particle accelerator at the core of the instrument. And so, of course, accelerator technology and the advancement of the science that supports it is a crucial part of the success for the Office of Science. Just as a brief reminder, before I turn to the specifics of the Accelerator Research, Development, and Production program, These Office of Science user facilities are open to all interested potential users without regard to nationality or institutional affiliation. Each facility manages the allocation of facility resources through merit-based peer review of research proposals. User fees are not charged for non-proprietary work if the user intends to publish the research results in the open literature. And otherwise, full cost recovery is required if the work is proprietary. There's a link here for more information. So turning now specifically to the programs of the Office of Accelerator Research, Development, and Production, there are two major components to the program. One is Accelerator Stewardship and one is Accelerator Development. The FOA that we're going to talk about today, which is the FY23 Research Opportunities in Accelerator Stewardship and Accelerator Development FOA, DE FOA number 2951, is anticipating awards of $19.5 million over all years of all awards to all performers in both new and renewal awards. Divides into two major activity categories: Accelerator Stewardship, which many of you know has been around since 2014, and Accelerator Development, which began with congressional authorization in 2022, just last year. Under Accelerator Stewardship, there are three so-called tracks in the FOA. These describe distinctly different research activities, have different eligibility and different funding floor and ceilings, and different types of proposals. So as you read the FOA, please carefully note which track is appropriate for the activity you're proposing. Track one is use-inspired basic research and development. This is aimed at transitioning accelerator technology into medical, security, environmental, and industrial applications. Track two is cross-cutting basic accelerator R&D. This is aimed at developing the foundations and new concepts of next-generation accelerator technology. And track three is the Accelerator Test Facility Program. This provides support for non-DOE institutions to make use of DOE Office of Science accelerator R&D capabilities. And in general, accelerator stewardship activities are limited to technology readiness levels less than or equal to 4. That means benchtop testing of a subsystem in a laboratory and environment. Accelerator development, which is new since 2022, is quite distinctly different. This is aimed at much higher technology readiness level, up to TRL 6, and also emphasizes manufacturing readiness up to a level of 7. It's divided into two tracks: Track 4A, which is the Accelerator Technology Sector Business Plans. These are funding for a single year for a team to study specific sectors of the accelerator technology ecosystem. The second is Track 4B. These are Accelerator Technology Partnerships. These are, at their heart, public-private partnerships intended to strengthen domestic suppliers of accelerator technology. So we'll walk through each of these tracks and give you a sense of the aim, the teaming requirements, and the proposal requirements. So for track one, use-inspired R&D, the aim is to develop accelerator prototypes up to TRL 4 or a benchtop subsystem demonstration in a laboratory environment in response to specific technical challenges. Design studies are sometimes supported as well, but typically these are R&D proposals leading to a TRL 4 demonstration. The technical challenges have been identified by basic research needs workshops held in concert not only with the scientific community, but also with our partners at other federal agencies that make use of accelerator technology. And in particular, there are currently 4 open challenges: particle beam therapy delivery improvements, ultra-short pulse laser technology R&D, high-power electron accelerators, and compact accelerators. The links here will take you to reports from each of those basic research needs workshops. You're encouraged to read the reports. They outline not only the full context for the challenge, but they identify the priority research directions where we're seeking proposals. Teaming for track one is strongly encouraged, and a team is expected to have 3 different participants One participant is expected to be an expert in the accelerator technology itself. The second expert is expected to be an expert in the use of that technology in a very specific setting, whether that's medicine, security, or environmental applications or others. The third, where appropriate, is to engage a private company that can be present and guide the research from a very early stage. Evidence of institutional commitment is strongly encouraged for these proposals. Eligibility is all domestic organizations. Proposal format is a technology development plan, or if it's a design study, it'll be quite a different short form application. Please read the FOA carefully. Track 2, which is for cross-cutting basic accelerator R&D. This is for long-term R&D that broadly impacts many accelerator applications. And just to be very clear, this means proposals for work that is not aimed at a single Office of Science program or a single facility, but at work that will have a broad impact across multiple Office of Science programs and indeed multiple future accelerator-based facilities. This is early stage, PI originated R&D aimed at significant performance increases and or cost reduction of particle accelerators. Teaming is encouraged, same composition as for a track 1. Evidence of institutional commitment is encouraged. Eligibility is domestic academic institutions and nonprofits only. Please note it is a more restrictive eligibility for track 2. Proposal format is a research proposal. Track 3 is the Accelerator Test Facility Program. This provides short-term support for non-DOE entities to use DOE Accelerator R&D capabilities. And capabilities can be read to mean test stands. It can be read to mean also engineering or technical or physicist support for calculations or simulation. It need not be use of a physical facility, but it must be driven by the non-DOE entity that wishes to work with the DOE laboratory. It's up to $300,000 for a period of 12 months. It is non-renewable. If the challenge or the question that you have in mind for research will take longer than 12 months, consider applying under one of the other tracks. The teaming in this case is mandatory between the outside entity and the hosting DOE laboratory. Evidence of institutional commitment is encouraged. Eligibility is all domestic organizations except DOE laboratories cannot be the lead. They can be the host or a subcontractor, but they cannot be the lead. The proposal format is an abbreviated research proposal. So with that concludes the Accelerator Stewardship part of the FOA. We're going to turn to the Accelerator Development part of the FOA. And with this, I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Camille Ginsberg. Camille, you want to take it away?
All right, thank you, Eric. All right, so track 4, as discussed previously, is really focused on accelerator development. There are 2. The first one is track 4A. These are for studies that are conducted with industry to develop strategic plans for specific technology sectors. This can be up to $200K, and you have 1 year to conduct the study. There are specific technology sectors that we're looking at, the 5 that are listed here. The first is superconducting accelerator systems, including superconducting radio frequency, superconducting magnets, and cryogenic engineering. Item 2, beam physics and high fidelity computer modeling, better diagnostics, artificial intelligence and machine learning based control systems, advanced focusing and beam cooling techniques. Sector 3, high intensity electron, proton, and ion sources, megawatt class targets for secondary particle sources. Sector 4, higher average power and higher efficiency radio frequency and ultrafast laser sources, power handling devices, high precision and high accuracy X-ray optics. And lastly, high risk, high reward advances in particle sources, beam dynamics, acceleration techniques, and materials. So for this track, teaming is strongly encouraged, where the 3 teams, the team could consist of 3 parts: an accelerator technology leader, multiple industrial companies, and a business school or business consultant. The eligibility for this one is domestic organizations. And then the proposal format is a research proposal. The other one is track 4B, and this addresses public-private partnerships and other investments, and it's intended to reduce the supply chain risks for DOE science facilities and have us ready for future projects. So this would be up to $2 million for a 2-year reward, and it's renewable. The solicitation for this one is seeking proposals in 6 areas. The first one is manufacturing of superconducting wire, cable, and high-field magnets. Second is the manufacturing of high-intensity sources of electrons. Third, manufacturing of high-intensity ion sources. Fourth is the manufacturing of targets for producing secondary beams. Fifth, the manufacturing of high-efficiency RF power sources. Sixth, manufacturing of high-accuracy X-ray optics. So teaming in this case is strongly encouraged between industry and a DOE Office of Science laboratory, and the eligibility is domestic organizations. The proposal format is a research partnership proposal. So some of the considerations for the Track 4B applications, the successful applications are going to leverage the complementary strengths of industry and national laboratories and strengthen domestic suppliers. So activities of the partnership should be tailored to the specific needs of the technology and the current state of the industry, and could include joint technology development, formation of a center, design for manufacturing activities, industry use of DOE lab facilities, vendor qualification activities, government furnished equipment, and procurement of strategic reserves of materials, components, or subsystems. So proposals that are purely for academic R&D or that don't have any industrial partners are going to be declined without review. Proposals whose net effect would be to reduce the domestic market competitiveness, corner the market, or pick a winner, those will also be declined without review. So please document the current state of domestic suppliers and explain why your proposed work would increase the domestic market competitiveness. That's the point here. Okay, so some general activities associated with applying for funding. General advice is to please read the FOA carefully. If required information is omitted, then it could be that your application is declined without review. Some of those required informations include the peer plan, which we'll get to in a moment, the data management plan, or the list of individuals who should not serve as merit reviewers for your specific proposal. We have a frequently asked questions document that's posted on our website. And the link is here, and I think Natalie just put that in the chat. Review section 5, application review information, which describes how the merit reviewers are going to read and score your proposal and the program policy factors that DOE is going to take into consideration. Next, please. The merit review process is how the winners are selected. The proposal's project narrative should enable a reviewer to be able to evaluate the merit review criteria. Scientific merit review, it's a peer review, and that's evaluated against the following criteria: the scientific and/or technical merit of the project, the appropriateness of the proposed method or approach, the competency of the applicant's personnel, and the adequacy of the proposed resources, reasonableness and appropriateness of the proposed budget, quality and efficacy of the plan for promoting inclusive and equitable research, that's the peer plan, and the quality of the accelerator stewardship or accelerator development opportunity, depending on the track. So a few words about the peer plan. This is relatively new. Beginning this fiscal year, the Office of Science solicitations require applicants to submit a plan for promoting inclusive and equitable research, also known as a peer plan, together with the research proposals. So this is a requirement for all proposals submitted to all Office of Science solicitations and invited proposals from the DOE National Laboratories. The plans are limited to 3 pages, and they should describe the activities and strategies that the investigators and research personnel are going to incorporate to promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in their research project. The complexity and the detail of the peer plan is likely to be larger with the size of a larger research team and a larger number of personnel to be supported. Please note that the peer plans are going to be evaluated under a new merit review criterion as part of the peer review process. So it's part of the merit review, just the same as all the criteria that are listed on the previous slide. You can get additional information and the frequently asked questions at this link that Natalie posted in the chat. Here are a few of the frequently asked questions. How much support can I get? So the FOA includes ceiling and floor amounts for funding individual projects. Peer review will assess the requested budget versus the research need, and descoping may occur if an award is made, that is, a reduced fund would be awarded for a reduced work scope. Note that the support should match the requested support should match the work proposal and not vice versa. So how long will it take me to find out if my project is funded? Typically, it takes 4 to 6 months to complete the reviews. It's a lengthy process to ensure fairness and completeness, and proposals can be held up to 1 year for consideration. Third question, I want to support my research group with multiple federal grants. What are the requirements? So each research proposal to each agency has to be able to stand alone with respect to the quality of the research performed and the research output. The work scope funded by each agency must be clearly delineated, and you may submit substantially similar programs to other agencies, and those similar proposals should be listed under the current and pending support in your application. May I include letters of support? The answer is no. However, if appropriate to your proposal, you may include letters of commitment stating that effort or facilities will be made available to the PI. Can I contact or visit a program manager? Yes, we encourage this. Initial contact by email or telephone is encouraged. Contact information can be found on our website, as well as on the first page of the webinar slides. It is difficult to logistically to plan in-person visits to the secure Germantown facility, so we would need to make prior arrangements to make that happen. Okay, where can I learn about accelerator technology needs of the Office of Science? Each Office of Science program maintains reports on its research needs and long-range plans on its DOE web pages. So you see each of the relevant agencies or offices rather there. Basic Energy Sciences up through Isotope Program, and those links should take you right to the reports where you can learn about them. So another question, what are you looking for in a team? So teaming is strongly encouraged for most proposals, and peer reviewers are asked to assess the strengths of the team. Each member of the team has to substantially contribute to the work scope, so not be in name only. The team should include experts in the accelerator technology, experts in the end use application, and a domestic company. The diversity of the investigators and participating institutions is strongly encouraged. And by diversity, we mean diversity in all senses of the word. How can we find potential institutions and PIs for our collaboration team? We can't give you specific directions, But for the R&D partners of all types, you can search for authors of recent papers in your proposed topic area. And in particular for DOE lab partners, there's a lab partnering service, which you can find at the link that's shown there. So broadening participation is a really important part of our FOAs. And we do always encourage applications from new institutions that have not submitted FOA proposals before, institutions that do not currently have an Office of Science award, minority serving institutions, predominantly undergraduate institutions, new investigators, and investigators from populations that are underrepresented in the Office of Science portfolio. Our program managers are always available to discuss research concepts now, not specific proposals, opportunities to submit proposals, or opportunities to form new collaboration. So we would encourage you to stay connected. You can receive Office of Science news by email or text, and you have a number of topics of interest that you can select if you want to hear about FOAs, press releases, meetings, scientific topics, or program office news. And that is available on our website shown there. And you can click on the top bar there, Stay Connected, to sign up for that. And I believe that comes to the end of our discussion. So I'd like to hand it over to Natalie for the Q&A.
All right, thank you. Thank you, both Eric and Camille. We'll get to your questions in a second. I just wanted to let everybody know that now is Q&A time, so feel free to drop your questions in the box and we'll answer them. The first question we have is any team member lead automatically a co-PI?
That's a great question. So we do expect, as we mentioned, that the team members participate substantially in the work scope for the proposal. So we do expect to see the lead member of the team showing up as the lead PI and the submitter of the proposal. And we expect the team members at the other institutions to be co-PIs and to command non-trivial funding to match their non-trivial work scope.
Great. We have another question. Can additional members be added between a pre-application and the full application?
That's again a great question. We know there's always adjustment to the composition of collaborations. We also know there's adjustment to budgets that match, and modest adjustments to either between the pre-application and the full application are fine. If we see that large numbers of participants have changed or the budget has tripled, we will not consider that to be as well connected to the pre-application as we might have expected.
Okay, makes sense. Is there a limit on how many proposals an individual may participate in?
Again, a good question. So new this year is a limitation on how many proposals a PI may submit as the lead PI, and that limitation is 2 pre-applications per PI and 2 full applications per PI. Please note this is not a limit on how many applications an institution could submit, nor is it a limit on how many co-I or co-PI participations a particular individual may have. It's just the 2 submissions as lead PI that are now limited.
Okay, I think that's good. Can you estimate the available funding for new starts across the programs? How many awards do you anticipate?
So it's always difficult. We strive in every award cycle to try to do a balance, not only between renewing and new efforts, but also a balance across the tracks and across the very wide variety of accelerator physics topics that typically present. So it's impossible for us to make a prediction on new starts. Historical performance has varied fairly significantly one year to the next. In some years, renewals as opposed to new starts have been a significant part of the award portfolio. It just depends on the number of meritorious applications we receive.
Great. Is a track 4 proposal to be led preferably by non-DOE entity?
It can be led either by the DOE National Laboratory or by a domestic company. Whichever holds the most significant intellectual stake in the work scope and performs the largest portion of the work scope generally should be the lead.
Great. And for the track 1, is it better for an institution outside of the DOE lab with respect to the DOE lab?
Either. And again, it depends sensitively on the application and again, which party, whether it's the DOE participant or the outside participant that brings the most to the table. Whoever's bringing the most intellectual contribution and work to the table should lead.
Are proposals related to the development of enabling accelerator diagnostics expected to be encouraged?
That's a good question. Depends on which track. Presumably track 2, which does allow a far wider scope for proposals to be submitted. And in particular, we have funded in the past diagnostics and controls work under track 2.
You got a thank you. So how do reviewers quantify partners' contribution in a merit review? Is it based on funding allocation to them?
So it's a combination of several things. It certainly is how the funding is allocated, but it's also how the work scope is allocated, the responsibility for whatever the milestones and the technical advances are. So, you know, the entire story of how the particular partner relates to the whole of the effort really sort of guides whether the partner is making substantive contributions or not. And we ask the merit reviewers to appraise whether each partner is making a substantial contribution.
For track 2, can the PI be in a DOE lab?
No, track 2 is restricted to academic institutions and nonprofits only.
Does track 3 include reviews of new facility designs in collaboration with existing accelerator test facilities?
Wow, that's fairly far from the intent of track 3. The intent of track 3 is imagine a university or a company that has an idea and they wish to test it at a physical facility they don't have, but a DOE lab actually does. Track 3 is intended to, facilitate the testing of this idea, very short-term engagement, a year or less. Track 3 is not intended to build new facilities or significantly expand infrastructure at the host lab. It really is intended to help, the non-DOE entity get their idea off the ground. That's really the intent of track 3. Facility design is a stretch, not really within the originally envisioned aims for track 3.
Is there the expectation to have a working benchtop prototype by the end of the award?
For track 1, the expectation is within an award and potentially a renewal cycle. The goal is really to have a benchtop subsystem demonstration in a laboratory at TRL 4 for the particular technology proposed. For tracks 2 and 3, there are far less restrictive requirements. Track 3, the goal is that the outside entity gets their work scope done by the end of the 12 months. Whatever that work scope may be, whether it's testing a widget or working with a laboratory to design a new widget. Yeah.
Great. If there is no existing domestic supplier, does working with a single company constitute increased competitiveness?
That's a great question. And it sort of gets at the essence of what we're trying to do with track 4B. So if there is just one domestic company working actively in the area on a particular product, and the proposal is to help that company expand that product line or push the product into a slightly different space, meet a new performance specification that a DOE lab would need, then that can be reasonably seen to not be decreasing market competitiveness by stepping on other companies participating in that space if there's just one unique provider. What we really don't want to see are proposals where there are arguably 2 or 3 or more companies that are in substantially similar market position, and only one is getting helped at the expense of the others. Or worse yet, a company that actually could do it, their competitor is being supported so that they can compete with that. These are, again, forms of anti-competitive behavior. But if there's just one provider and the proposal seeks to strengthen the one and only provider, then that is within the intent of Track 4B.
Great.
I'm sorry. The question was if there's no existing domestic supplier. So going from 0 to 1 is clearly increasing the competitiveness of domestic companies.
Yep, indeed.
We have a question that's pretty specific. If there are questions specific to, is there an email address people should reach out to, or should we ask specific questions here right now?
So for very specific scope questions, it's probably best that you email Camille and I, and we'll address those.
Okay, great. That is all the questions I have currently. We can give it another 30 seconds, see if anything pops up in the meantime. Let's see. One question, what do you want when you ask for a demonstration of institutional commitment?
So what we mean by institutional commitment is effort, resources, or facilities provided at reduced or no charge to the government as part of performing the work scope for the proposal. This can include things like space or facilities, release time for faculty, scholarship support for students, or waiver of administrative costs. What's crucial about this, and what we often unfortunately see in proposals, is whatever's being offered as evidence of institutional commitment cannot have its origin in federal funding. So for instance, if the equipment that's being offered as a free facility was originally purchased with government funds, it does not qualify. So again, the key is whatever's being offered in the way of an offset of costs or resources or facilities as part of the one of the proposing institutions' evidence of commitment, it needs to have originated from a non-federally funded source.
Are international collaborations welcome? Are U.S. funds available to them?
So yes, with a proviso. So throughout the guidance that we have from Congress on both the predecessor program, Accelerator Stewardship, and the Accelerator Development Program, the intent really is to strengthen domestic suppliers. But in the absence of a domestic supplier, or in the case of an absolutely superior international supplier, we welcome partnerships whose net effect is to help Office of Science facilities remain, outstanding research facilities. So in that context, yes, if there's no opportunity with a domestic supplier, or there's a clearly superior opportunity with an international supplier institution, they would be welcome.
Great. Would this program support curriculum development or training of students?
So the ARDAP FOA, its primary intent is to support research and development on accelerator technology, and student training often occurs in the process. But curriculum development and student training cannot be the only focus of a proposal submitted to this FOA. If that's really the intent, we encourage you to take a look at FOAs such as the Renew funding opportunity announcement, or the traineeships that are offered by some of the other offices of science, whose intent really is very directly to contribute to curriculum development and training of students.
And then I have a proprietary accelerator technology. Would track 4 support its commercialization?
So again, the ARDAP FOA is really aimed at addressing future accelerator technology needs for the Office of Science. If the technology has been identified, as Camille described earlier, we have lists of technologies that are of strategic importance. If it's been identified as a priority need for SC facilities, then potentially yes.
The total support for this FOA is 19.5 million for how many years? I.e., what is the annual award support? Any planned ideas for beyond that time? What's after?
I wish we could predict the budget going into the future. 19.5 million is effectively over 3 years. We typically make 3 awards that last up to 3 years. Some awards are a little bit shorter, 1 or 2 years, depending on the track and also what's proposed by the PI. The annual award support is a little complex to predict because we have to fully forward fund any grant or contract that is less than $1 million in total request. And so that means it all has to be funded in the initial year of the 3. And so that tends to change a little bit the balance and change the profile over the 3 years. So it's kind of an evasive answer, but difficult for us to really pin down. It depends on the composition of the awards that are made any given year. The hope is in subsequent years, number one, the awards are always made with the anticipation of future appropriations to support the out years of the awards we've already made. As we've seen in this fiscal year, significant growth in the budget for ARDAP. So we're optimistic that we'll see continued growth in the future years, but keep your fingers crossed.
Will future FOAs from ARDAP invest into basic accelerator R&D sources and beam transport as carried out at DOE Accelerator Labs?
It's a good question. And I presume this is meant in sort of a track 2 basic R&D sense, because I would argue that within track 1, within track 1, there is already the remit to do studies of beam transport in very specific design challenge contexts. So I'll interpret the question to mean, much more broadly, putting in place basic applied mathematics and beam physics theory that would be useful broadly read. In that case, the short answer is track 2 for the moment. It's restricted to university and nonprofit applicants. We are discussing other potential changes to track 2 in the future, but as yet, nothing has been implemented.
Thank you. And I'll just give another 30 seconds, but we have reached the end of the questions that I have. Here we go. Is there a roadmap for the required TRL for the tracks for future funding?
Is there a roadmap? I'm going to interpret the question to mean, for a particular technology, are there specific milestones tagged to the TRL targets? The short answer is within the FOA, no. We do ask the peer reviewers to assess the end state of, for instance, if it's a track 1 application, we do ask them as part of the merit review criteria to give an assessment whether it's a reasonable step forward towards the goals of achieving a TRL 4, if it's a track 1 proposal, a TRL 4, a benchtop demonstration. But do we have a specific roadmap saying this technology needs to be at this milestone at this TRL level? We do not.
Great. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to drop both emails into the chat if that's for future questions for anybody who wasn't able to ask their question within our Q&A box today. I'm putting both email addresses in the chat. And we will have this recording and the slides available on the website that I dropped earlier in the chat. Is there anything else? Did something just come in? Yes.
So we had one more.
Okay. Do you anticipate the track 3 award size and duration being fixed at 300,000 and 12 months going forward, or might this change in the future?
For the moment, it's anticipated to remain fixed at that dollar amount and duration.
Okay.
Subject to review in the future, of course, as we try to optimize the program to best suit the need.
Great. And are you planning to include SRF cavities in future track 4B?
That will depend very much on the guidance from the other offices of science.
Okie dokie.
Well, these are great questions.
They are.
I'm glad we did this webinar.
Okay. Something might come in, but those are all the questions we have. Here we go. Just a thank you. So many thanks, and thanks to our speakers. And anything else you would like to say, Eric or Camille?
You want to say any final remarks, Camille?
No, thanks for your interest in this program.
And I'd like to join Camille in thanking you for listening for the last 47 minutes. Hopefully this has been useful to you, and please get in touch. You know, it always saves time to get in touch with one of us and ask questions about, is this an appropriate thing to consider for the FOA? We're happy to discuss it with you.
All right.
Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you.